Hello, my name is Carmen, and I'm a public service librarian at the Cedar Rapids Public Library. In this presentation, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the 2020 census, why it matters to you, and why it matters for your community. It really does matter, and we want everybody to fill out their census because, of course, everyone counts. So in this quick presentation, I'll be covering some of the local impact the census provides, a little bit about this year's census timeline, the process this year, and any concerns, some general concerns that may have come up as you've heard more and more about the census. So what is the census? Well, it's a count of every person living in America, and it occurs every 10 years. It's actually constitutionally required that we count everybody living here, regardless of their age, race, or citizenship. But why is it important? Well, it determines the number of seats that states get in Congress, and which of this, of course, includes Iowa. It also helps allocate billions of dollars in federal funding for roads, healthcare, low-income programs, social programs, and much more. In 2016, Iowa received approximately $8 billion through 55 federal programs as a result of the data collected during the 2010 census. So it does make definitely an impact. The link here on this page is to a video produced by the census that just shows you a little bit more information. So please take a look if you are interested. These are some of the programs that federal funding supports. It's community support, education, food assistance, healthcare, public safety. These are all, the funding for all of these are allocated by the number of people counted, which is determined through the census. Locally, here in Cedar Rapids and in Lynn County, the census numbers determine the appropriations for programs like these, like Medicaid, the SNAP program, foster care and adoption programs, public safety programming, many things that keep us healthy and safe. In general, though, the numbers are about redistricting, reapportionment for programs like these. So it determines a lot of funding and services on the local level. So this is a timeline of the census this year. As of March 12th, census materials were mailed to 95% of homes, encouraging recipients to fill out their questionnaire online using a unique code in those mailings. So it would be one questionnaire per household. There's also information there about a paper census and about answering the census via telephone. We'll talk a little bit more about April 1st in the following slides, but just keep that date in mind as an important one as you fill out your questionnaire. If you don't fill out your questionnaire by May 13th, you may receive another mailing or a phone call or a personal visit from someone with the census working here in Lynn County. The self-response period, though, does end July 31st, and then the data gathered this year from the census will all be available early next year. So this is an example of the form you would have received in the mail. And if you don't have it anymore, that's okay. You can still use your address to fill out the census if you don't know your census ID number. And the ID number is going to be a 12-digit code made up of numbers and letters specific to your household. You may have also received the follow-up. This is a copy of my follow-up letter. It looks very much the same as the first letter. It's just sort of urging you to fill out your census. So the significance of April 1st is considering who is living in your household on that date. So even if you fill out your census in March, or if you fill it out in the rest of April, the base point, the base date is who is living there on April 1st. Now, with many college students home, that may have changed who normally lives there throughout the year, but do consider who's at the household on the 1st. So like I said before, in your mailing, it encouraged you to fill out your census online using that census ID or your user ID. And you can use your address instead if you have misplaced it or think you didn't receive it or just not sure. you can use your address. It's also available in 13 different languages. So if you received an English one, but you would prefer a different language, something that you're more comfortable with, if English isn't your first language, those are available, and you can find the instructions for that in your mailing. There are also 59 non-English language guides for the census. They instruct how to fill out the census in English. They instruct in a different language how to fill out the English language census. There's also an ASL video with instructions, and it's also available in Braille and in large print. Okay. The print questionnaire is also available in Spanish and English, and that's new this year for the printed version to be in more than one language. So if you don't have access to the internet, or if you're not comfortable using the computer or the print version, you can fill out your questionnaire online, and that is the number there. It should also be in your mailing to call and fill out your questionnaire. So if you do fill it out online, this is the site to start at, my2020census.gov. And this is the first page you'll see. And once you've read through the Getting Started section there, you can just go ahead and click on Start Questionnaire. So what's new this year? Like I said before, the paper questionnaire is in both English and Spanish. So if you're more comfortable with one or the other, that can be requested. And the online form is available in 13 languages, also what I said before. The guides to help you fill out the form is available in many languages and can be requested. If you have any trouble with that, requesting them, please do contact the library and we can help you out. Or call the number provided on the slide before, 2 slides before. There's also the ability to call and respond using telecommunications device for the deaf. So if you are deaf or hard of hearing, please do utilize that service. There's also the ability for the head of household, which would be whoever fills out the form, to report a same-sex relationship. So if that applies to you, do mark that on your census. That's a new part of the questions for this year. There's also the ability to self-identify your race or ethnicity via check boxes and write in text boxes, which is new and encouraging more people to self-identify. If you do end up using the paper questionnaire, this is just an example of what it might look like. The Spanish version is very much the same, just in Spanish. So these are the questions that are going to be asked on the census questionnaire. It's first going to ask how many people are living or staying in your house, apartment, or mobile home, wherever you're living. And thinking about the date, April 1st again, how many people are living or staying there on that date. It also is going to ask if the place that you live is in a house, apartment, or a mobile home, and is it owned by someone else with a mortgage, is it owned by someone in the household with a mortgage or a loan? Is it owned by you or someone in the household free and clear? Is it rented? Is it occupied without paying rent? It's just to get a better sense of the place that you live. So it's also going to ask you some more details about the people who live in your household. So you would be person 1, the person filling out the questionnaire, and it's going to ask you for your name, your sex, your age and date of birth, whether or not you're Hispanic, Latino, of Hispanic, Latino, or Spanish origin, and what is your race. And this is where there's ability to self-identify with checkboxes, but also a write-in box if you don't see your race or ethnicity. And then it's going to ask you about the rest of the people living in your house based on the number of people you stated in question number 1. So it's going to ask you to put person number 2. Do they usually live there? And how is that person related to you, person number 1, the person filling out the form? And this is again where you can identify if this applies to you, a same-sex relationship, but also a child or a grandparent or another relative or a non-relative living with you. And then it will ask you also for their sex, their age, and so on and so forth. So because the census is online this year, there are added concerns that many people may have. There's some concern about computer access or computer skills for the online self-response, Because the library is closed right now, unfortunately, we cannot help you as much in person. But if you do have questions about your own computer or how to access the census online, do give us a call or send us an email, and we will certainly do our best to help you. Otherwise, like I said before, you can get a paper questionnaire, to mail in, or you can answer over the phone if you're more comfortable with that. The citizenship question was a concern definitely earlier last year. It's since been decided that it's not on the census. So if you're still concerned about that, do know that it's not a question that's going to be asked. There are some privacy concerns and fear of repercussions or distrust of the government. The government, of course, is collecting this information, but constitutionally it is protected information. It cannot be used against you. So please do fill out your census and do know that the information is kept private. There's also some concern about dis or misinformation about the census online, particularly on social media. Some social media sites are working against this, working to make sure that the information is true and dis and misinformation is not being spread online. There's also concern about language barriers, which hopefully will be mediated by the many resources available in other languages to fill out the census. I just want to reiterate, the census will not ask for the following things. It will not ask for your social security number. The census does not ask for money or donations or for anything on behalf of a political party. And on that note, it also does not ask for your bank or credit card account information. And there is no citizenship question on the 2020 census. So speaking back to dis or misinformation, if you receive something that asks for any of these types of information, it is not the census and it's not the official place to fill out your information. So just be careful. That being said, if you do have any questions, please contact the library, contact the Help Center on the Census website itself. You can call the library at 319-261-READ or 7323. You can also send us an email through our contact form online there at crlibrary.org/contact. So if you have any questions, please let us know. Otherwise, I hope you're all staying safe, and we are excited to see you again when we can. Thanks.